let's go with what are you looking forward to most in the next week and favorite Christmas movie. I am looking forward to most starting Thursday to do absolutely nothing but stay in my pajamas and watch movies all day and eat a lot of popcorn. And favorite Christmas movie, it's kind of a tough call. I'd say National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is probably my number one, but Bad Santa is pretty high up there too. And I will pass to Mateo.
Hey guys, how are you? Well, for Christmas this week, I'm excited for spending time with my family. I'm going to be cooking with them, so that's really fun. That's like the tradition. So I'm really looking forward to that. And for my Christmas movie, I'd say Home Alone because I guess that's the only movie I watch every December with no exception. I think that's a tradition for our Latin Americans. Home Alone, Mi Pobre Angelito is called in Spanish. My poor angel is badly translated. So yeah, I think that's the one that I'd go with. And I'll pass it to Tonga.
I am very worried because I have to present in 2 hours, but it's okay. Um, yeah, I was laughing because of the faces that Jake makes are so funny. I don't have much more to say. I don't know who wants to talk. Anyway.
Take it away, Jake.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm pretty excited about seeing my kids. I'm really excited about a few presents I'm going to give them. Christmas movie. My house always watched A Christmas Story. You'll Shoot Your Eye Out. That was always pretty big. I really enjoyed that. I honestly, too, I am one of those people that think Die Hard is a Christmas movie. So I'm probably going to pick Die Hard. It's totally a Christmas movie. And I'll give it to Livia.
Christmas movie is such a tough one. I'm not. I just sit down and watch whatever is playing because I'm never the one to put a Christmas movie. But then the other day there was the Elf going on, and I don't really like Will Ferrell, but that was a really good one. Like I couldn't stop watching, and I laughed a lot, so that was good. What am I excited about? I feel a bit anxious. I'll show you guys my situation. There's like all of this in the floor. There's things I need to pack on to go to Brazil, and it feels like a nightmare. So I'm excited to have time to do that. And just have fun with family and eat a lot of goodies. And I'll pass to Zaptimus.
Thanks, Levi. Yeah, same as everyone. I'm excited to see my family. We usually don't watch films on Christmas. I think it's better like to spend the time with the people because then they are gone, everyone to their house. So yeah, it's cool to it's cool to stay together. And I'm pretty excited for that. It's always fun. And I'll pass it to Santi.
Well, this is definitely going to be a different Christmas because of lockdown. So one thing I'm going to love is not having to go shopping. I hate shopping, and especially on Christmas. I just hate it. So luckily, I won't have to. That's one thing I'm going to like. And for the rest, just relax a little bit for a few days. And movies, I don't watch too many movies lately, but there's two things I like watching for Christmas. They are always on TV. One is sky jumps. There's these four jumps competition during Christmas time. One is in Switzerland, another one is, so two of them are in Austria. They always play them on TV. ski jump. And the other one is the New Year's concert from Vienna. I love watching that concert of classical music every year. So I'll pass it to Chris.
Hello. What are we sharing in addition to our intentions today?
What are you looking forward to for the holidays? And what is your favorite Christmas, Hanukkah, or other holiday Festivus movie?
Oh yeah. I don't really watch the Christmas movies, to be honest. I'm not a big Christmas movie watcher, but I am looking forward to potentially having some of our family's traditional heritage dishes. So our family's mostly Norwegian, so we'll have some lefse and some maybe some lutefisk as well. So that would be good. But yeah, looking forward to just kind of seeing some family, whether that's virtually or in person. Yeah, that's yeah. I'm not sure who has gone yet because I just got here. So I'll pass back to Jess to pass.
I will pass to Craig.
Thanks, Jess. Holidays, yeah, family time and some skiing, definitely. And yeah, Christmas movies, you guys have hit my top 5, I think. Christmas Vacation, Christmas Story, Die Hard, definitely a Christmas movie, and Elf is sort of a newer classic. If you have kids, you probably know that. Maybe Dan hasn't gone yet.
Are you with us, Dan? He sometimes has been having some internet issues. Maybe he didn't go into the co-working space today. Okay, well, while Dan comes back or gives us a signal, let's pass to Tamara.
I'm so glad nobody said my movie. So it's also cultural, but it's not American culture. It's Italian culture. And we spent a lot of Christmases in Rome because my children's grandparents are Italian. And every Christmas, they play Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. And it's like the Italian Christmas movie. And it's really become like my special, like I have such joy in watching it every Christmas that even now when we're here in France, we still watch it for Christmas. I really love that movie. It's a great film. And what I'm looking forward to, I mean, there's so many things, but really like children opening presents on Christmas Day, like early in the morning, can't be beat. So that's mine. And Dan, if you can hear us and you can speak, you're up. Otherwise, passing back to Jessica.
Okay, maybe he'll come in later. So yeah, I'm going to share a screen real quick because Jake mentioned his kids and he sent us a picture the other day. Aren't these the cutest little boos ever? Jake, you made some really, really nice, beautiful babies. I just had to share that because not
I
everybody's in
wasn't
that channel.
alone in that. You know, their mom plays a part in that too. You know, but yeah, they are pretty doggone cute. Thank you.
They're super cute. I hope you enjoy the time with them. And yeah, I should have said too, I'm really looking forward to giving gifts. I don't really feel like I need anything or like when people ask me what I want. So I'm looking forward to giving them. Okay. Oh yeah. And I forgot one thing. Chris, you were saying lefse and something else. So I searched online this lefse. It's like a sweet. And then the other one is like fish or what was it?
Yeah, it's a fish. Yeah.
What's it called?
Lutefisk.
Yeah. Lutefi. Some people call it fish and some call it fisk. So Fisk or SH.
Okay. There
It
you
is
go.
like if you're
Norwegian
if you live up north, like Minnesota and like towards Montana, it's really Norwegian and German, and lutefisk is like a staple. And it's like that you go to church and there's these giant dishes of lutefisk.
Okay. Interesting. All right.
It may be an acquired taste, but
Okay. Super fishy there. All right. Very cool. Wow. What a diverse array of traditions. Thanks everybody for sharing. Where should we start? Okay. There's lots in the agenda. I don't know if you guys can access the notes I shared in the main TEC General channel. I guess I was going to go from like quickest to longest discussions. So the first thing that I think will be easy to decide on is Mateo. I don't know if you wanted to briefly share, or there was discussion around translating some things into Spanish, because I was digging through some of the stakeholder research the other day and I found that Zeptimus had actually translated our onboarding guide and no one even knew it because there's so much stuff. I think during that point there was a lot flying, so we want to resurface that, give it some love, and then maybe Mateo said he's willing, which is amazing, to come and translate some materials. So just want to sync on that really quick of I'm not sure who wants to, Mateo, if you want to lead that and then get some feedback from Livy maybe around which documents we should prioritize, and then we can try to see how we can realistically like work that into the flow. And obviously our bandwidth is like so for like Discord maybe or other things, but we do have that intention that we want to start on this. So what do you guys think is the best way to move forward?
Yeah, I came up with the idea, and I heard you say that in the community call last week. It came up from the meetup that we had with Sam here in Colombia 2 weeks ago. So I think there will be a great reception if we have more content in Spanish, and also because a big percentage of our community here is actually from Latin or from Spain, actually. So I think it makes sense to have it, and we have people to give great feedback to make good content in the language. So yeah, I think that's the best way. Maybe if Livia can give me like these punctual articles or content is more priority, has more priority, I will begin with those. And I don't know if anyone can help as well. We can sync up on that.
Jake, did you have an idea?
Well, I just think now that I'm back home in Costa Rica, as far as onboarding, I mean, any resources too towards this, if I can actually, locate and resource other people here, that would be really, really cool. Because mi español es malo. So I would really, really appreciate that. That would be really cool.
Okay, great. So maybe, sorry, Livy, go ahead.
No, that's so awesome. I think the easier documents for someone to have like a comprehensive idea would be the Medium posts, right? The one that explains everything, and then it's always this like bursts of a lot of information, and then we can slowly start integrating some meetings and calls, because I don't think it makes sense to like translate everything if we're not having meetings in Spanish, but then slowly having more people informed about the bigger picture, we can start introducing that in.
Awesome, that sounds good. So maybe there'll be like a little subgroup who starts to take on like the discussions around the best way forwards to start to translate things. And even I would suggest like maybe even some of the common stack articles with the like the high level narratives about like cyber physical commons, or maybe just one or two to start like focusing on TEC. But I think like conceptually this is really important in framing the context. So just an idea, but you guys go for it. Let me know if I can support. Mateo, are there any other questions you wanted to ask around that initiative?
Nope, all good for that.
I just want to say, Mateo, if you in any time feel you need help, I'm here to help. Yeah.
Thank you, Seth. Will do.
So wonderful. Thank you so much, Mateo, for reaching out about that. And welcome to Nate and Jeff and Griff, who just jumped in. We were just discussing, Mateo had volunteered to help to translate materials in Spanish because a lot of our community is Spanish. And Nate, are you new to the community?
Yep. Just drop it in for a
Awesome.
listen.
Well, awesome. You're most welcome. And happy to catch you up, and a community steward can reach out to you in the next day to talk a little bit about what the Token Engineering Commons is doing, and if you have any questions. But this is the communications working group, so we're focusing on, high level narratives and discussing communications. So welcome to your feedback and listen in. Thanks for joining. So we have a lot still more to talk about here. I just wanted to give Mateo that space because he was asking me. The next discussion topic I put on the agenda was, I'm kind of asking for help. I had a discussion this morning with Jeff, actually, just like helping me to improve my workflow and be able to focus more on the high level narratives and some of these really important deliverables coming up. So he suggested, the framing of like the comms working group as kind of an aggregator. So lately I feel like I've been spending some time Craig, do you mind muting? I don't know if maybe he left his computer. That's okay. But yeah, I feel like it's been a little challenging for me to keep up. There's so much happening in the working groups. So maybe it's a discussion for the stewards meeting tomorrow, but having like a kind of aggregator, or if other working groups could kind of report to comms with like a little digest or highlights of what's happened that's like really, really important for comms to know. So I don't know if that's going to be like a Google document, or if we can just shape our existing like TEC Thursday weekly call agenda to do that. But I'm just feeling like I could use help in keeping up and understanding like what's happening in the working groups, and like the working groups kind of seeing themselves as also communicators. So I'm just asking for help from like all the different working groups. And there's a few people like Jake, you always come to me, like there's a few people who kind of chase me down. So I guess it's like a community effort of putting the question out of how can we aggregate information in a little better way. So if anybody had any ideas, or we could also talk about, because it's kind of a stewards thing, because it's like involves all the working group leaders, but if anybody had any ideas, I'm super open and happy to hearing how I can do a better job, and maybe some ideas around how we can aggregate all of this information in a better way besides the news blog and what we're already doing, and just give like a couple of minutes space here. If anybody has any ideas, like how can we do a better job of aggregating information about what's happening. Jake, sorry. Feel free to speak.
Well, one thing I think before we, this is something I've just noticed on my own too, is we're all over the place, whether it's Discord, Telegram. We don't have, we need to have all these channels. I understand that, but we need to focus on one specific for what we're actually, as the whole, and what we need to discuss, what's important, so we have a clear line of communication. Whether that's Discord, or the new Discord, or what we're doing there when that gets set up. But I know that's all a work in progress, and he's doing really well. But that would, if we have that established, and then I think it'd be a lot easier to be like, okay, now in this channel, now we specify all these working groups, if that makes sense.
So yeah, like maybe just more focused internal communications. Septimus, you had something?
Yeah, maybe having one channel specific to have like all the important things, but like not to discuss in there, like just for example, one person who is in charge or whatever is posting like the important things, but keep that room clean, like only with the important things. Like there is that every working group is doing like the big picture topics. They're on this channel only for that.
Yeah. I want to support what Zeptimus and Jake were saying. Maybe there's a Discord channel that's like working group announcements, and that's where we drop that. But I also really like the idea of like adding to the steward's agenda, like what does comms need to know, so that every week everyone's thinking to bring what comms needs to know to that meeting. So maybe those two things.
Yeah, and the idea behind this was just to free up more time from, Jess as comms having to be in every call and up to date on every working group and what's going on in each group, because that alone is a job, let alone reformulating that and then putting it as external comms about what all these things are doing. So if there could be some, channel or like sprint digest of the most relevant external communication impacts from each working group, that would probably ease the comm side of things, so we can focus more on the pushing that external to the community rather than running around inside and trying to keep up with all of the work that everyone is doing, which is so fantastic.
I think. Sorry, Jess. I think there's two approaches to this question from my perspective. One is letting everyone know what's going on the groups, and that's great. And I agree that we need to help Jess. She doesn't have to be the one digging into the information, and we as stewards have to pass that information to her. But on the other side, there's what do we want people to get involved in at a specific time. Like, for instance, when we are approaching the hatching phase, what we will want is to communicate about joining the association and becoming a hatcher. And we don't want to somehow get the attention into other areas, although that information should be somewhere where they can check. So I think it's like the medium. In the medium, you just don't get a bunch of information. You just get what the posts, which are managed by Jess, say. And that's the one information we want to communicate when we post something in the Medium channel. I think we should have, it's like a different kind of information. Okay, I would say what you're mentioning, Jess, is probably from people already joining. They want to take a quick look of what's going on every single group, and if they want to join, they can go to the meetings to get more information and dig into them. But then there's the channel where we want people to take a look, where we want to post what we want the community to really impact, okay, to really don't miss, all right? And this is going on next week. Be sure you check this, all right? So I think there's two channels or two kind of informations that we should take care of.
I think based on what Santi said, we could perhaps have both in one, using the working groups channel on the forum that I finished with all the working groups information. So we can have the first post linked to the welcome section. And then every time someone new enters, they would always come to the first one with the clean documents and the basic information about each working group. And then we can, each steward could update each working group every week after the calls. And that's the place where you look into, and everyone who wants to be like up to date looks into.
Awesome. I love that. I just, sometimes there's so many pieces I forget, we have that now because you're just building that. So yeah, and that's a good segue actually. And thank you so much, everybody. This is all really helpful feedback to understand how we can improve this, like internal communications, and all of these different reflections are really helpful. This is great. So I'm just going to show what Livy's talking about. And thanks for reminding me. This is going to be a good segue for our next topic, actually. So finally, Eduardo and I wrapped this welcome to the TEC, which is like our new onboarding everything in one place. And my screen looks different because I'm an admin. He is reordering this, but I think he's going to finish today, like reordering it. But this is everything everybody needs to know, at least the first iteration. And I super appreciate everybody who contributed to this. Craig and Livy did a lot of heavy lifting. Durgadas, Santi, I think did some also things. There were some people too that just did stuff. Were just angels that just came, and Craig had filled out all this glossary terms, so that was fantastic. So this is done. So that will help a lot to start with. Anybody who wants to know what is the TEC, if they come here, they can get kind of the high level understanding of what's going on. And then Livy built this working group section, which is telling more deeply. So in this section, we have how to join and contribute. And here we've listed out, we have this cute little photo, how to contribute, and listed out all the working groups. And then she is going to link to their new section to go a little deeper about like the manifestos. And yeah, that would be great if everybody can kind of aggregate there. So that solves that. And then the next topic and kind of segue is, so there's this proposal section, and we need a little sense making around terms and what to name things. So Livy has suggested, we have basically 3 types of decisions that are going to be made. There's conviction voting and like the project proposals, which people are submitting for funding. And also technically we have signaling. So we have conviction funding, conviction signaling, but that can all go under the subcategory of conviction voting. And then there's Dandelion voting, which is the DAO parameters. So like exit tribute and, reserve ratio, whatever. And I have some questions for Griff actually related to that. But for now, just concerning the naming, Dandelion voting, are people going to understand what that is? Should we call it something else? And then the third part is kind of like community polling or community voting. And an example of that is like smaller decisions that we don't need to use conviction voting for. That will be, for example, we voted to move our vote to the forum. So Livy did, we can do these polls. You can create polls on the forum. So we decided that's how we're going to handle this kind of smaller decisions. So the first question is around naming. So do you all like the idea of conviction, because terms are really important, so we all are referring to the same things. So conviction voting, Dandelion voting, and community polling. Do you have any feedback around this naming? And the good part is we have the about section that we can explain what it is. So Dandelion voting, if we decide to call it that, we can explain what it is. Do you have any strong feelings about these terms, or we don't have to spend too long, but the naming is important?
I would say for Dandelion voting, there's a lot of documentation around the Dandelion voting app that's available. So if we maintain that name, then people will be able to Google it and find that data. Same with conviction voting. But I think it's a little too hard to change that name. However, at least for our deployment strategy, I've been moving towards this concept of a TEC hatch DAO, which has Dandelion voting in it. So but we don't have to talk about that necessarily. It's just there's the TEC hatch DAO, and we need to vote on the commons upgrade. And those being the names for the 2 phases. The commons upgrade gets to get away from us having to talk about augmented bonding curve and conviction voting, and just explains, oh, we're upgrading to a commons.
Okay, that's really helpful to hear from you. And also, I wanted to talk about these other 2 terms, but also, Griff, what are your thoughts around, this is specifically referring to this proposals section on the forum, splitting it into 3 subcategories of governance. Do you have any thoughts around those 3 names, or do you like that? Conviction voting, Dandelion voting, and community voting or community polling? Any thoughts?
I had a quick.
Go ahead.
I had a question for you, Griff, or anyone who has more information. I'm curious if the Dandelion voting or the TEC hatched out, is this kind of a one-time, like we have to decide these parameters, we have to vote on them, but is this an ongoing governance process in the TEC? Like, are there things that are continually governed on the Dandelion voting side, or is that just sort of like we have to decide this for the hatch, and then that's not a governance thing that we have to come back to over and over in the TEC?
So when we do the commons upgrade, we'll have to decide how many instances of Dandelion voting there are and which parameters they control. So effectively, yes, there is going to be continual Dandelion voting, but it's going to be pretty rare. So like it'll be like, oh hey, I think we should raise the exit tribute from 10% to 12%, and there will be a Dandelion voting application in our DAO that will have a specific support required and a specific quorum required to change that parameter. But it's going to be rare that those things get proposed, but I would expect them to happen. The big one, there's that big one vote for the hatch DAO. That's basically all the hatch DAO has to do, and for that, it'll only happen once.
Gotcha. Are there any other parameters that are top of mind? Exit tribute, for example, is there a quick list that you can just shoot off? I'm just taking a couple notes here.
Yeah, exit tribute, entry tribute are probably the ones that will be most commonly used. There's also like there'll be a multi-sig by gravity that, the Dandelion voting app is a check on a lot of our centralizing decisions that might come up. Like, for instance, there'll be a gravity multi-sig that can remove conviction voting proposals if they don't follow our terms of service. So like changing these like special roles is a very important Dandelion voting application role. Other ones, there's and there's the multi-sig that Tonga's really concerned about that could probably pause the bonding curve, which I'm sorry to call you out, Tonga, but I'm very happy that you're concerned about it, because it is really important. And what else?
Vote duration.
Vote duration. Well, yeah, in Dandelion DAO settings itself. So like, it can change its vote duration I think there might be some, like, probably the biggest thing is God mode, which is like being able to upgrade the conviction voting app completely, or being able to upgrade the bonding curve app completely. Yeah, I mean, it's basically
conviction voting parameters will be able to be modified through Dandelion voting.
Yep. I mean, there's basically, there's going to be at least 2 instances of Dandelion voting. The instance that has a very high support required and probably a decent quorum for, God mode type things, which are changing the bonding curve or conviction voting parameters that are key to, how those things move, or even upgrading to a new application. Like, what if we want to upgrade conviction voting to be like quadratic conviction voting, or something like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the meta DAO, or like hyper DAO, and maybe a new term isn't what's needed, but it's almost like I like that term, like God mode. If we want to do infrastructural adjustments to the commons, this is kind of like the community decided backdoor to changing those things, that we have to come to some quorum on making big changes, but that kind of exists so that we can do these kinds of large scale updates in the future.
Exactly. I pretty much, in my opinion, the big ones that will be used a lot are just like tweaking the tributes. And beyond that, it'll just be like when the devs are like, oh, there's this big upgrade to conviction voting and it's safe to upgrade, let's do it. Then there'll be like big votes.
And what is the second multi-sig? I had the same questions actually. Thank you. This is really helpful for understanding when we start to dive into explaining how this is all going to go down. What is this other multi-sig? There's the gravity multi-sig and there's a second multi-sig, the one that Tonga's concerned about. What is the story on that one?
Yeah, so actually two groups who have had bonding curves have recently frozen their bonding curve, which is wild. DXDAO froze their bonding curve, and ANJ froze their bonding curves. But they both froze them for political reasons, and I doubt most people who were participating understood that those bonding curves could be frozen, you know? And in fact, the ANJ community is pretty pissed about it. So that is not the purpose of this multi-sig, to do those kind of political freezing, but it's more, I would imagine that we would want some sort of like, you know, one or two of many multi-sig that can freeze the whole system and pause the bonding curve for security reasons. If some white hat is like, yo, I found a bug, you know, it's my Santa white hat. I have a lot of friends that wear these white hats, and they're really nice Ethereum people who like find all these great bugs, and then they're like, oh, hey, guess what? I can steal all the money out of your bonding curve. It's like, oh, really? Cool. Well, let's freeze the bonding curve. And then thanks for telling us, you know, and then we'll explain why this security feature had to be used. But I think it's important that these multi-sigs and these roles get heavily discussed in our forum, and we have cultural understandings on why those things can, those powers can be used, and not for maybe whether or not it's for political reasons. That's one thing, but either way, the Dandelion voting app will be able to unfreeze the bonding curve, and you know this multi-sig would not be able to take any money or anything like that. That's the main one. It's just that bonding curve and these smart contracts, most of the smart contracts that we're using have never really been audited. Like they're very complex, and it's not safe to play without that safety net of white hat alert.
Cool. Yeah, this is giving me a lot of context, because essentially what we're doing, and it's quite difficult, is we're defining polycentric governance forms. You know, different. Some are one token, one vote. Some are one person, one vote. Some are, you know, more like for executive functions, or you know, people who are providing kind of that higher level like guardian role for the DAO. So I think this is this is helping to pull together kind of a more cohesive picture, and I think that's how we can communicate it as well, is that, you know, we have multiple different governance forms and multiple different checks and balances on what this DAO upgraded, and then we can just communicate this as you know, a polycentric governance system, and these are all the different aspects of it. And I think this is providing a lot of clarity, and I've got a bunch of notes here that I'll definitely go over with Jess and see if we can wrangle into something a little bit more comprehensive about all of this.
But yeah, and I think oh, go ahead, sir.
I just want to say that it'll be a lot easier to understand when we have this complete test hatch and upgrade done through the app, because then we'll have the finalized code base, and we can actually create a reference specification that everyone can look at what the various, you know, governance roles are that are being considered, and what powers they have and what parameters are being governed, and it'll be all in one place. But it's all blocked by the Garden Swarms test hatch and Commons upgrade. Sorry, Jess.
Great. No, that's okay. Thanks for explaining. And I probably still have a few detailed questions that I'll bring up with you when I start to write about it. But I guess the aspect is, and it's good to know what you're saying, but also I do feel like getting ahead of this a little bit, and that's what I'm doing, I guess, next as we approach like communicating around like what is the hatch and how it's going to happen. I think a big portion of this is governance and like the super surface layer scratching the surface was like, how do we divide the proposal section and the forum and name things? But this actually is like so deep, this well of explaining and communicating about the governance. So we can start like very simply. That's what I'm trying to do, like go from most simple to most complex, is starting with, okay, we have these 3 sections and subcategories that Livy is suggesting on our proposal. So it starts to like get clear, like, okay, this is how we're doing these very basic 3 governance layers. And then we can build into this like deeper narrative of all the parameters and, you know, and yes, we have been deep diving, thanks to Jake, like so thoroughly on the parameters, but I think that's the very techie narrative of like, what is the percentage? And, you know, now we need the more social and cultural angle is, what does this mean for governance? And what are these layers of governance? So maybe Livia, yeah, we can work together on starting to like at least draft parts of that, because I think it is going to be a big work to explain everything. So even if we start to get this in like drafting this out, you had something, Livia, to thoughts? Or
Yeah, I feel like the way they could be explained in one sentence each is that Dandelion makes changes in the contract level. Conviction voting is allocating funds, and the forum is making cultural agreements.
Awesome. Yeah, I just want to mention one more thing, Jake, and maybe you have some feedback on this as well, is, you know, we all are focused on funding proposals, but we also, Griff, is it still the plan to leave in conviction signaling, for lack of a better term, in
Yeah,
the app?
you can't take that out.
So maybe we also could discuss Livy and SoftGov. How do we want to use this mechanism? Because I think also this is very unexplored. Like even in OneHive, they have the abstain proposal, but I have only seen 1 or 2 signaling proposals. And we don't need conviction voting on everything, but maybe we graduate some of the community polling could be graduated to conviction signaling. So maybe we can discuss and get some more collective feedback in a SoftGov meeting. Okay, awesome. And Jake, sorry.
No, that's okay. All right. I just, I've been thinking about this for quite a while because of how much I've been in the tech params and the forum. We're all C-Stack token holders, right? We're part of the trusted seed. Everything we're talking about hinges on that. There isn't anything about explaining what that is in a manner that's clear for anyone outside of this community. Everything we're doing hinders on the trusted seed because that's what we're doing differently. And there isn't anything anywhere that's like clear about what makes a trusted seed. So if the bigger, brighter minds would like, I would really appreciate on the forum, because this should be right by your proposal or right by what is the TEC? What is the trusted seed? You know, what are the people we're trying to get? And just that's it. And just concentrate kind of a little bit more on that. Because, I mean, otherwise, what's the point about talking about all of this when we're really just talking to each other? Does that make sense?
Definitely. And that's a great segue to our next point for discussion, which is, so all of this, so yeah, the governance is another deeper discussion. And since we only have 15 minutes left and still a bit to talk about, so the governance, thanks Griff for explaining. We're definitely going to have a lot more questions for you. And Livia, we can break out the governance discussions, but thank you for those awesome one-liners that we can employ. And then, yeah, so this is kind of the next topic is a lot of comms or the narrative has been blocked by the legal discussions and how the C-Stack token is going to come into play. So the legal working group, and Santi, maybe it would be great for you to give just like 1 or 2 minutes, but I think this is the news that has not really been communicated except for to the stewards this morning. We had a discussion with the Common Stack on the Common Stack side, and so basically the framing is, from a comms perspective, the framing is the legal working group is making a recommendation to the TEC as an open, independent community that has open governance is making a recommendation to use the trusted seed as like almost like trusted seed as a service. So to use the trusted seed to hatch the commons. But we need to hold a vote. So the legal working group is coming and making a recommendation because it can't unilaterally decide for the whole community, although we are still making up the governance as we go along. But, you know, the thought is we vote on this, that the TEC as an independent committee decides that they want to take the legal working group's highest recommendation, which is to use the Swiss Foundation because that offers the best legal protection. Without this, there is no other option. Without this, we don't like hatch in the foreseeable future. So it's kind of a no-brainer vote, but it's still important that we open it for this governance. So Santi, did you want to give a couple of minutes just reflection? And I know Griff has asked you to write a forum post.
Yeah, sure. I started writing that yesterday, and I also gave access to Griff, and you should have access to, so you can guys tweak it. Basically, what we're going to explain is the process that we think is the best way to move forward from a legal perspective, and that's basically what everyone should go through in order to become a TEC hatcher, and that is first become a member of the trusted seed. And that's done through the application that you can find on the Common Stack Association webpage, or the Common Stack webpage. That's a type form that you fill in, and that information is reviewed by people from the Common Stack. They check who you are if we don't know you already, which is going to be most of the cases. But if it's someone we don't know about, they check your social media information. They go and dig a little bit. They ask whoever may know you who you are, if you're aligned with the token engineering commons purpose, because we don't want speculators here. We don't want people not aligned with our values. Once you're admitted, if you're not admitted, you're out. Basically, once you're admitted, then you are invited to become a member of the Commons Stack Association, which is a legal association based in Switzerland. And that's a process that you will have to go through, an app that will be, it's almost ready. You will just go through that app, hook your wallet, and sign the terms to become a member of the association and make a donation. We will suggest an amount. You will be able to go with a minimum amount of $1. We will suggest a bigger amount, especially from people that's not been working that's not part of the group pushing the community from the very beginning. And then you will be a member, and you will be ready to become a hatcher if you wish to do so. Unless you go through that process, you won't be able to become a hatcher. Even if you have impact hours, you will have to become a member of the association. And that's basically to give you protection. You will have a shield from the association that will cover up to 10,000 per person or per member. And that's the best thing we have figured out that we could deal with this. Of course, the DAO won't be a legal entity at all, but somehow we think that we feel more comfortable if we give this extra level of protection to all the members. That's going to be posted quite soon after you guys review it, and we will of course have a poll to vote it. And if everything goes fine, we should have those steps ready in the next days, or at most 1 or 2 weeks at most, so we can start enrolling people as a member of the association who want to become a hatcher.
So yeah, thank you so much, Santi. That was awesome. Perfect. And yeah, so Jake, that was the main blocker, and why we don't have that information publicly available is because we were waiting on that, which kind of just came last week to a final decision. And then now they're working on the post, and that vote will be open until we decided January 7 because of the holiday to leave it open. So yeah, hopefully that's more clear. And then that will be the kind of main, and that we'll maybe do another post. And actually I got some feedback from Angela yesterday, who also had concerns, and I'll share with you, Santi, because I think this is important, and I don't know if this will be covered in the terms. And the DAP is like, how is the board elected? What are the rights of the board? And making sure, people are going to have questions about, does this board have decision-making powers over the TEC, for example? So I have kind of a list of questions that I'll forward to you, Santi, that we need to either, I kind of need to figure out if this is addressed in the DAP, in the token DAP, or if this needs separate communication.
There's this thing called the statutes of the association, and everyone is required to sign the statutes that I believe have all of those answers: onboarding, offboarding, the board. The one thing it doesn't say explicitly, that the terms in the Hatch application will say explicitly, and we were working on in the last legal group, is that the common stack has nothing to do with the TEC directly and has no power over the TEC, and everyone is acting as an individual when the TEC is created as the Hatch in the Hatch DAO, the TEC Hatch DAO.
Okay, great. And yeah, we only have 7 minutes left. So I see, Nate, that it looks like you have a question, and I would like to address that. But just to say, for the last 7 minutes, I would really love to hear some feedback on hearing all of this discussion. What is most important to keep in mind about the TEC narrative for the Hatch, or what do we need to communicate? We obviously have a big feat with the Hatch itself and governance, and we have a bit of a narrative around, the becoming a Hatcher. So Nate, did you have a question? And then if anybody else had any closing round thoughts, and we can dedicate some more time to this on our next meeting on January 5th. But
no, honestly, you can wait till the legal TEC. I'll keep it comms oriented here.
Thank you. And yeah, feel free to reach out to Santi if you have legal working group questions. But did anybody have some thoughts around the general narratives of these items, the Hatch, governance, and becoming a Hatcher?
I think we really need just the one-liner of what the TEC is trying to do. Like, the TEC is public goods are good and TE public goods are better, or something like that, and have one line, and that can just be spammed everywhere.
You want a meme? You want the perfect meme?
Meme governance by memes.
Yeah, I had a meeting scheduled with Durgadas today to just allocate time, because I haven't had the time and space as I'm trying to cram out a bunch of stuff. But Griff, this is number one priority. Durgadas and he had a conflict, so we rescheduled to January 5th. The first week in January, this is my sole focus, but I'm trying to cram out some deliverables before that. But I hear you, and we need this. And Jake, maybe I would like to invite you to that discussion. Anybody else who wants to work on the kind of high-level narrative? I had some thoughts in the shower the other day, so I started writing some stuff down. It's where I get all my best ideas. So yeah, any other thoughts out of all these topics? Any sharing or what's important in explaining these things to the community? Blind spots?
Is it really too much to ask for some kind of manifesto? Really, the one line thing is, I get it, but it'd be really cool if we had something more about what is the trusted seed. The legal thing, I get that, but I kind of would appreciate, maybe this is just me. Maybe I just would like a more philosophical, Are you?
I will say that. I will say there are 2 blog posts on the Trusted Seed on the Common Stack blog, and I did this nice video, basically where I rant for an hour about the Trusted Seed in some random call with some slides and stuff. So I can definitely send you the slides and that content, and maybe we can put something up.
Yeah, and Jake, I'm open to your brainstorming. I'm not quite sure what you're seeking, and maybe it's just because I'm so deep in the wormhole, but I see what you're saying, about a kind of high level. We have the mission and the vision, but maybe something else. So yeah, I'm open. Maybe have a think over the break, and if anything, if you're inspired, write me or just start a doc and we can all submit ideas. Is that?
I have a feeling that we are very modular, and maybe what is missing is just like a macro and a micro perspective at the same time. Like something that we can look like. Maybe this one liner is the title of the macro perspective. And then if you zoom in, you can see all of the fractal pieces that are part of this. So maybe if we had a visual of like having that in and out perspective, would make people understand like what are all of the moving pieces that make this a thing.
Would you give an example of, like, I guess I'm trying to understand micro and macro perspective. What form would it you mean like a specific form, like a blog on what we're doing again, like an update to the kickoff article, or you mean like a one-liner, or
For me, I don't know if I'm just a visual thinker, visual learner, visual communicator. I'm kind of seeing what you mean, Livy, and like a mural board almost, like where you can zoom out and you can see like the TEC and like the high level stuff, and then you can zoom in on, a specific area that may be legal, or a specific area that may be our deployment rollout, or a specific area that's like our different types of governance. Actually, that kind of gave me some thoughts, and I've been working in the mural board that Tam opened up for us yesterday. So I'm gonna put some early thoughts in there. I'm not gonna focus too much attention on it, but if you find it useful, I can share it with Jess, and maybe she can bring it back to the group if there's anything useful in there. Because I find for me, like words, after a while, there are so many words, and if we deliver another manifesto, it's just more words. And I feel like a meme or like a visual where you can like zoom in and then understand, okay, cool, there are different working groups working on different aspects of this, but there's a larger picture that often kind of gets lost, I think, in the modularity, if that's what you mean by that.
Okay, cool. Well, we're at the top of the hour. We're gonna run into Livia's meeting, so thank you so much. This was, I think, the best meeting of the year so far. This felt really good for me. I felt like a bit like so many questions and stuck, and so this is really great to kind of come to some consensus and moving forward and get really clear about what needs to be communicated. So thank you. And yeah, Jeff can start to draw, and then hopefully we can turn that into something more visual. So yeah, and Jake, thanks for, by the way, all the help on the design stuff lately, and you can help us as well with the visuals. I think would be great. And Septimus, thanks. He's putting a cool, by the way, little logo burned into all the videos from now on and the live streams, so that would be really cool. Yes, thank you. Appreciate everybody's feedback and inputs, and have a beautiful holiday, and we'll see you January 5th for the next comms meeting. And you can refer to the calendar if you're wondering if something's canceled. And Griff is still hosting a meeting this Thursday, so if anybody's ronery, we'll see you there. And
yeah, we're gonna beat Kagatillo. You don't know what that is? Oh, get ready.
Alrighty, see you guys in soft gov.